loud and clear, no straight lines. Actors, directors, tales to unwind. Horror to action, their stories collide. Chasing the threads where the secrets hide. Getting sidetracked with Alex and Josh. Questions fly like sparks, no time to hush. Diving deep, no map, no loss. Getting sidetracked with Alex and Josh. A laugh, a gasp, a twist in the tail. The unknown journey that never fails. You step a leap into the abyss. A wild ride you can't resist.
Good afternoon and welcome to Getting Sidetracked with Alex and Josh. We are joined today by the star of 1991's Point Break. He's also in Sometimes They Come Back Again, a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
He's in Meatballs 4 with Mr. Corey Feldman. We love Corey Feldman here on the channel. He's in, what else? The Family Business on BET. Sleepwalkers, a Stephen King banger that I love from the 90s. And he was also a blink and you'll miss him in Pump Up the Volume. Huge, love that movie with Christian Slater. Mr. BoJesse.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That was such a cool intro, and I'm so stoked to be here, number one, with both of you. But also, you mentioned Meatballs 4, which was something that my girlfriend, Danica, said, please talk about Meatballs 4, only because it's Corey's birthday today, by the way.
I saw that.
Yep. And then we just saw Corey a couple weeks ago on 4th of July, and we reminisced about Meatballs 4. And we just saw the film for the first time since we made the movie, because I thought it was such a terrible movie that I never watched it, and I watched it, and I really liked the movie. So, yeah, the movie's fun. So thanks for mentioning it. I appreciate that. That was a cool intro.
Oh, dude, I saw that movie on Showtime and HBO a ton in the early 90s. They would play that on loop.
Cool.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure. For sure.
I for whatever reason, I avoided it. I don't know what it was. I think this is an interesting segue. So I had just done Point Break and was waiting for that movie to come out, waiting for Point Break to come out and like change the trajectory of my career. And I was doing whatever I could do in the meantime to work. So I was auditioning for like all the coolest stuff that you can imagine. Like we'd go down a list of things I didn't get, right? But like then the things that I did get were like Meatballs 4 or Sleepwalkers, or Sometimes They Come Back Again, which is another Stephen King, B-side thing. But it's fun all these years later to look back at all the work, because all the work were blessings and they're all so much fun to watch. For two reasons. One, I was blessed with the opportunity to work. I actually got a chance to do the thing. But then, like, that's young BoJesse in my 20s, and I'm like, that's so cool to see like the younger version of myself like thriving at the start of a career. And I'm thinking, the kid's not bad. That's not a bad actor right there. He's got something, and it's fun to watch.
I was going to say, like, so you graduated in San Francisco at age 17?
Yeah, 1988.
So 17, was that a situation? Because I graduated when I was 17, and I remember, like, seriously, BoJesse, I remember my mom talking because I was born September 1st, and my mom was, like, meeting with the people, and they're like, okay, like, he could start school at 4, or he could start school at 5, and my mom was kind of in the party scene, so she's like, oh, no, we'll definitely, 4 is good. Extra year of babysitting, push him in right now.
Get him in there, man. Yeah.
Were you gifted? Were you accelerated? What's going on there?
I don't know if I was gifted, but I was gifted the opportunity to go to school early. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think just my birthday's in October, so like it's I just got started on the early side, and so graduated.
Yeah. That's super early, October. So that's incredible, man. What about sports? Did you play sports other than surfing and stuff when you were growing up?
Yeah, I love sports. I mean, just kind of jumping into like pre-teens, I was a big baseball player.
Okay.
Loved baseball. Like I played baseball in Little League like all the way through at what I felt was like the highest level I could do it at. I don't know, looking back, how great it was, but I think it was pretty good. And I think right before high school, you know, like that 7th and 8th grade, middle school, right before you're going to get in, like that's when I found surfing.
Oh,
And it
nice,
was like
nice.
surfing, baseball, and it kind of, and then it was high school. I'm like, am I going to be a surfer or am I going to be a baseball player? And I was like, I'm going to be a surfer, you know.
Good
So
choice, man. Ultimately, good. Katherine Bigelow. I don't know if she was casting any baseball films around that time when you
no,
showed up on set with Brian Austin Green. Was it a baseball movie or a surfing movie you thought you were bringing him to?
it was definitely a surfing movie, man. Yeah, it was definitely a surfing movie. Yeah, have you heard the story about Brian
I
Austin
heard
Green?
I had heard pieces because when I was doing a little reading and like I know that you were on 90210 a couple times because my cousin would watch that show and
Yeah.
when I saw you on your guest spots, it
Uh-huh.
was like when Leonardo DiCaprio does the like there he is. Like I
Right.
saw Gromit, dude. I saw you from a mile away, friend.
That's so fun,
Oh yeah,
man. That's so
but you were helping him run lines, right?
Yeah. So when I first moved to LA out of high school, you know, I graduated when I was 17 in San Francisco, Pacifica specifically, but Northern California. I moved to LA. And then as soon as I moved to LA, like my immediate friends, the guys that I met, you know, right off the bat was Brian Austin Green, David Faustino, who was Bud Bundy on Married with
Oh,
Children, Soleil Moonfry, who was Punky Brewster, bunch of cool actors, right? Alyssa Milano, like, you know, Christine Applegate. Like I just got jumped into the gang like right away.
wow.
It was really cool. I got lucky and fell into some friends. And so Brian was one of my best friends. And on a daily level, we would all hang out. There's like 4 or 5 of us. And Brian was one of those guys. And he had an audition. He's like, hey, I got this audition, just came in. It's an end of the day thing. We got to drive all the way across town, but it's surfers, I guess, who rob banks. He's like, I don't understand the dialogue. Can you drive my car and run these lines with me and try to make sense of the dialogue, you know, while we're on our way to the audition? So I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. You know, it's his audition. I'm just, you know, I guess I'm kind of coaching him in a way informally on how to say the thing and what it means and what the feeling is. And by the time we get there, I have this stuff kind of downloaded. I've got all the dialogue. Just I understand the zeitgeist. I'm just in that
Hmm.
vibe. I've got the long hair and I've got the beanie and I've got a flannel and I just kind of look like Gromit, man. I am Gromit, right? You know,
Yeah,
lo and behold. So I get there, and the short story goes, because there's a cool way to kind of launch into other talk points on Point Break. But like, cool thing is, we get there. Brian goes in. I'm sitting on the ground and just kind of, you know, hanging out, waiting for Brian to come back. I've got his keys in my pocket. He comes out of the audition. I could see on his face that he didn't feel confident in what he did. And he was kind of like, let's go, let's get out of here. And I went to stand up, and the casting director was following him out. And he looked at me and he goes, are you next? And I said, no. And he goes, are you an actor? I said, yeah. And he goes, you're next. Oh, okay. You know, this is cool. You know, and Brian was like, no, man, you can't do that. And I was like, I'll see you in a minute, Brian. And then I just walked right by him with his keys in my pocket. So he had to wait. So I went in, and you know, I'm in the room. It's just me and Rick Pagano, the casting director, and there's no video camera. Usually, there's a video camera kind of recording the auditions. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to read for this guy, and if he likes me, he's going to call me back another day or something. But cool, I got this audition all of a sudden. Let's see what I can do with it. Rick Pagano, the casting director, hands me the scene, and he's like, okay, take a look at this and sit in the chair, and let's just read it and see what it looks like and feels like. I'm like, no, I don't need the paper. I've got this. I'm like, I already got it. He's like, oh, you got this, huh? He didn't know that I'd been coaching Brian, you know, on the way there informally. So I'm like, yeah, I got this. And then he goes, all right, action. And so instead of sitting on the chair and reading the dialogue, I stood up on the chair. I'm like, you drop down the pit, man. It's 25 feet straight down. Your balls, man, your balls are about this big. And the whole thing's freaking roaring, right? Pushing you forward like, I'm just super into it. Like you're a hoodlum on a freight train or something, man. Like that whole campfire scene just nailed it. And he
oh yeah.
goes, and I'm still standing on the chair, and I've got the blonde hair and the whole thing. You can imagine. He looks at me, he goes, hold on a second, I'll be right back. He walks down the hallway. 2 minutes later, he comes back with Katherine Bigelow, the director. And she looks at me, and then Rick Pagano goes, do that again. And then I went, drop down the pit. And I did the whole thing, right? And she goes, you're hired.
Just like that? No.
Just like that. Just like that. That's a
Wow.
Hollywood story right there. I literally took the job from Brian, but it just wasn't malicious. The universe said, nope, this is the guy for the job. It just put me in the position. The moment was mine. I met the moment. It all happened. And I went to work that next morning and started my journey on Point Break. It was awesome.
And not long after, you're dying in the arms of Patrick Swayze.
Let me tell you, man, how cool is that? By the way, I went to visit Gary Busey yesterday.
I saw that. He signed your album. I saw that.
He signed my girlfriend's album, The Buddy Holly Story, and she got that album at a Point Break event that we went to recently, and it was at this cool brewery that had some old records. She goes, I used to love watching this movie. I'm going to buy this record because I love it. Maybe someday I'll meet Gary. And I was like, you'll definitely meet Gary. Yesterday, we saw Gary, and I saw Gary for the first time since Swayze passed, because last time I saw Gary was at Patrick Swayze's memorial service, which was at Sony Universal on the soundstage where The Wizard of Oz was made. Like, it's the same soundstage. There was a whole thing, like a special invite. Probably 40 people, and that was the last time I saw Gary, and he and I shared that memory yesterday. But more specifically, man, when I walked in yesterday, and I hadn't seen Gary since Swayze passed, and I don't know when did he pass? 2009, I want to say, maybe.
Yeah, it was 2009-ish, because I remember I had a part-time job doing Us Weeklies and People magazines at stores, and he was on every cover. Yeah. It was like 2009, 2008.
Yeah, so I haven't seen Gary since then. And as soon as I walked in, Gary got up off the couch and he goes, "Hey man, really loved your death scene." Because he was watching the movie to refresh his memory, before I came over, and he had just watched it, and he just paid me this compliment that was like, wow, but I could tell he really enjoyed the death scene. So that harkens back to you saying, and then you died in Patrick Swayze's arms, because that was the first thing Gary touched on when we caught up yesterday. So that was real cool.
Your death scene, specifically in the bank, because you had the where you're telling everybody in the group, you're like, dude, I'm scared, I want to get the hell out of here, and then you go do the last final job, which of course leads to the demise of Gromit. But your death scene, dude, like, you're literally like breathing heavy, you're having a really hard time, but how did you do that? Who gave you direction? Was that you?
This is a great interview. I'll tell you why, because these are the exact questions that I love to answer, because this is the way I experienced it, and this is what means so much to me. So just backing up to the campfire scene before that, where I say, "Hey man, fuck the stakes, Bodie. The only person this is a game to is you, man. This is serious shit, and I am scared." And I say, "We get the fuck out of here now, tonight, okay?" Like that's the sort of musicality in the way the dialogue. I think it's such a BoJesse thing at this point, looking back at young BoJesse. But I wrote all that. That wasn't in the script.
Oh wow!
Wait a minute.
I wrote all that dialogue.
Are you kidding? So you actually did you get credit for writing that?
No. But the way it went down is that Patrick Swayze would call me every night at midnight. Midnight was my appointment. So like, he called other cast members too, and their appointment time might have been 9 or 10 or 11. Mine was 12 midnight every night for every single day that I worked with Patrick Swayze. Every single day. And I worked with him for 9 months. I got a phone call at midnight every midnight without fail for 9 months. And then we stayed in touch until he passed. But going back to writing this dialogue, he would call me and he would say, "This is what we're doing tomorrow. What do you think you want to say? Do you want to say anything?" Because there might be like, I say all this and then you nod. You know what I mean? You nod.
Yeah, because you're reacting to what the other actor is giving you, right?
Like, there might be a line or something there for Gromit, and and he's like, "I feel like you might want to say more. What would you say?" And then we would write it on the phone call, and I would write it into my script, and we would workshop it the night before, and then it gave me something to speak from as Gromit, because I'm the youngest of the gang, and one of the cool things that we both identified, Patrick Swayze and I, was like, if you put a voice to this young man, you feel something for him when he's gone. And then you empathize with the group, and it's a major turning point when Gromit dies. And now you actually know that Bodie has made a mistake. He's crossed the line. He's pushed the edge. And all of a sudden the audience is sort of in on it more, because they don't like him now, but they also like him, but they want to see how it resolves. It changes the course of the way it feels, but we needed like a moment to understand Gromit's heart. So when he dies, we really feel something for the two of them in that moment, because he trusted that Bodie would take care of him, and then it didn't work out that way. Instead of it just being shot in the neck, he dies, and we move on. It's all action. In a way, we don't care, right? But now all of a sudden, the actors were allowed to kind of play with what we feel. And so Swayze was really good. And I imagine he was like this on every movie he did with every actor he's ever worked with. This is my experience with him, where he would make sure that we find the deepest, meaningful connection to who we are, what we want, how we feel, and how we feel about each other. So when things happen, the audience is along for the ride, like, you know, energetically, but physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I wrote all of that dialogue. Gromit didn't have one line in that scene. And that became one of my more like memorable scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, campfire one is cool because I'm like drunk and doing the thing, but like that scene is where you feel Gromit's heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And then by the time I die, to answer the other question and share a story, it said in the script in that final bank robbery to the effect of Gromit gets shot in the neck, dies. Bodie pulls his mask off, raises a gun, you know, slow motion, you know, all that stuff. But there was no moment between Gromit and Bodie scripted. So I had just watched Colors with Sean Penn.
Oh yeah, Robert Duvall.
And Dennis Hopper directed that, and it was about you know, gangs, you know, the Bloods and the Crips. It was in L.A. and it was, you know, it was really riveting. There's a scene where Robert Duvall gets shot and he's dying, and he's got a laboring death, and the helicopters are flying around, and they can't get to him quick enough, and Sean Penn's over him going, "Hang in there, man, hang in there." And there's all this emotion between the two. You know, it's like young buck, older guy. There, you know, it's like there's this thing. You know, they had to kind of work out the relationship, but they finally got it, and now death is on the doorstep. You know, and what Robert Duvall does in those moments as an actor in front of the camera really moved me, and I was like, I want a death like that. Mm-hmm. And I watched that movie like a couple nights before, and I sat back and I rewrote that sequence, and I didn't share it with Katherine Bigelow, the director, or Peter Iliff, the writer. I waited for the phone call with Swayze the night before. And I knew that if I shared it with Swayze, that he would basically sign off on it, and then we would bring it that morning to Katherine Bigelow and show her what that looks like while the cameras were recording. So she gave me one opportunity. She said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow you with one camera. And if it feels like it works, then we'll go in and cover it and get a close-up view and then a reverse close-up on Swayze. So we have, in essence, 3 angles on it, which allowed them to cut in between those sequences and create a moment. Where otherwise it was one camera, Gromit gets shot, and then it whip pans over to whoever, and then it moves on, and I'm out of the movie at that point. And so I made a choice in the moment. Are you guys into this story? Is this cool?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is the way it happened, you know? So a lot of things were going on, a lot of moving parts, a lot of cameras, you know, in those bank sequences. And I was a young actor to this major motion picture thing. And like, I'm like trying to figure out where all the cameras are, but I was like, okay, that camera's going to start here on us, and then it's probably going to end there. From here to here is my opportunity. So I said to Swayze, I called him Buddy because he liked to be called Buddy because his dad called him Buddy. I said, Buddy, I'm going to hold on to you by the lapels. I'm not going to let go. I'm just telling you that right now. So you're going to have to throw me off, but I'm not letting go, because that forced him into my frame. And if Patrick Swayze's in my camera frame, I know they're going to hold on it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I drugged the movie star into my camera frame and made sure that the moment was on the two of us, so they couldn't cut away from me. And so I drug him in close, up close. I don't know if you remember that. I'm like, Buddy, put the whole thing, you know, and I, all the acting, all the feelings, all the things I went for, but like I held him and I came down and brought him down into the thing, and I wouldn't let go of him until the final moment. And then I knew that's when they could get a camera to look up at him and get his close up, and another one over his shoulder on me. So we had, in essence, 3 different angles on the thing. And that was a smart actor thing, but also it helped me sell the idea of creating a moment in the movie. And I think it resonates because it's one of the things that people love to talk about. And I'm proud of that. So thank you guys for bringing it up. Allowing me to share that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just saying he's got a very prophetic line as well, you know, that he's not going to see 30. And it was really good. I thought it was a powerful scene in that bank robbery. So.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, you know, the writing was really good. You know, Peter Iliff did a fantastic job of writing this thing, and then so much of what ends up in the movie was either in the script or each actor took it and brought something so special to it, like Gary Busey, for example.
Mhm.
Talking with Gary yesterday, and Gary's like, you know what? He's like, everyone loves to say Utah, give me 2. You know, he's like, that wasn't in the script. And then he told me the story. He's like, I'm sitting there, you know, and it's like he's driving, right? You know, you guys, it's that angle through the door, right? And he's like, look at, I'm auditioning for you guys. You know, it's an angle where he's like, I was reading Calvin and Hobbes in between takes, literally. Like, he had the newspaper. You know, Gary Busey, the actor, was in between camera setups. He was entertaining himself by reading Calvin and Hobbes. That ends up in the movie. He's all Calvin and Hobbes, you know, all that stuff that he did. That's not scripted. Yeah. That's Gary Busey. And he's telling me this story yesterday. And he's like, Keanu's got to go get a sandwich. And he's like, you know, basically in the script it says Johnny Utah gets out of the car to go get 2 sandwiches, like nothing scripted, no dialogue. And it's Gary Busey improvising, riffing while Keanu's getting out of the thing. And then last minute, he just leans up towards the camera, Utah, give me 2. You know, and that ends up in the movie. And then from there, they end up going, all right, well, we need some more coverage on that. So they end up shooting, because Gary did that in the first camera setup. But Gary's telling me the story, and I'm like, of course, this is freaking Gary. This is the magic of Gary Busey, but also the magic of each person that was on that film doing whatever they did that was so special. You can talk to anybody who's in the movie, and it all works. Everyone's special. It's so cool, you know?
I think the most unbelievable thing, I don't think the most unbelievable thing is like 4 bank robbers, ultra athletes, all handsome dudes, just surfing the waves. That's kind of unbelievable, but the most unbelievable thing, BoJesse, is the price of 2 meatball sandwiches, 2 lemonades, and a tuna fish sandwich being like $4. I don't care if it's 1991 or now.
It was $7.63. $7.
You know what it was?
Yes. Come on, dude. Listen. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Great.
And he even got change. Keanu even got change from the gal. That's incredible.
I love that. But you got to love that, because maybe Katherine Bigelow was like, you know, this is the way it should be. It should only be $7. You know what I mean?
I agree, man. I don't think any sandwich should cost more than $5. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, BoJesse, my brother wanted me to ask you a question. And my brother, Aaron, and I, he's the spoiler, by the way. So my brother, if you ever watch a movie with my brother, don't do it. He'll tell you the ending before it's over, so he's the spoiler. So okay. Aaron, the spoiler, wants to ask BoJesse, okay, did you get to jump out of an airplane? Aaron, or was that an extra or stunt double?
So Aaron, Mr. Spoiler, I love this. That's a great question. So there's a lot of moving parts in the way I'm going to break this down here. So after I commandeered the audition from Brian Austin Green and got this part, by the next morning I was in a table reading with Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, all the people, right, reading a script and trying to understand how I got here so quickly and what I'm doing. Like, what movie is this? Who's in this movie? And everybody that walked in was like a bigger movie star than the other. Here comes Gary Busey, here comes Keanu Reeves, here comes Patrick Swayze, here comes James LeGros, John Phil, everyone's just walking in, and I'm doing this thing. By that afternoon, we were surfing on the beach, because there was a little bit of like, can BoJesse surf? So let's all go to the beach and get in the ocean and see if he can surf. And everyone was down there. I don't know why everyone had to come watch me surf to see if I could surf, but everyone, because I think some of them are learning how to surf, and everyone was like immersed in trying to build a character and get into the surf culture and the surf world. Yeah. So everyone's down at the beach in El Segundo, and I met my friend Dennis Jarvis, who owns Spider Surfboards, Spider Surf Shop in El Segundo and Redondo Beach. And he was the guy coordinating all the surfing. And I showed him all I could surf, met everybody. Then we went back to Dennis Jarvis's house in the South Bay. And Patrick Swayze says, hey, I want to show you something. Everybody get around the TV. And he pops in this VHS cassette tape of him jumping out of an airplane. So he pops in this thing. We're watching him do all these jumps. And it's just a quick kind of raw, you know, like there's a jump, there's another jump, there's another jump. And we're watching this thing for 20 or 30 minutes. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy's gnarly. You know, he's jumping out of planes and showing us this stuff. This is cool. I didn't even really track that we had to jump out of airplanes, or that was part of the film, because I read the script so fast in 24 hours because I just got thrown into this thing. I didn't know the context of what he was showing me. And then he said to me, he goes, and I was closest to the TV, he goes, hey, man, are you ready? And I said, yeah. Ready for what? And he goes, to jump out of an airplane. I go, yeah. And he goes, okay, we're going. I said, okay, when? He goes, now. So like that half of the day, we went to Paris Valley,
Yeah.
which is in Mojave Desert, Lancaster, Mojave Desert, and we all jumped out of an airplane together. And that started a whole sequence of us getting certified and jumping every weekend during the film shoot, and then start recording and filming as much as we could. And then the studio found out about it. And then the studio said to Swayze, we're going to shut the movie down because we're not insured for this unless you guys stop jumping until after the movie's over, until principal photography's in the can. And Swayze basically agreed to that, and the rest of us followed because we were just following what Swayze said anyway. He was our leader, including Keanu. Keanu was jumping with us all the time. Gary Busey, Gary had 8 jumps, actually. Gary had 8 jumps. Keanu, Gary told me this yesterday, he had 8 jumps. So Keanu, James LeGros, John Philbin, myself, and Lori Petty and Swayze all jumped out of an airplane, 24 times. There absolutely is people that are very gifted and skilled and professional that were hired to do the stunt stuff. But there was a bunch of stuff in the sequence of making all that sequence happen, of us getting there, showing the studio we could do it. And in the end, they couldn't use that footage because they didn't approve that footage, because they didn't approve that process. But we all did jump. And yes, there are stunt people doing those stunts. So you had to unpack that and just kind of build a story. But man, Swayze. Oh, but the Swayze stuff where he's in the airplane and he's like, adios, amigo, or whatever he says.
Oh, yeah.
Adios, or whatever he says. That's him. That's him, obviously, but that's him filming it before the studio found out that he was doing that. And then that was the piece of footage they allowed him to keep in, because he did a deal with them saying, we have to make this the thing that is the trailer that gets people to the movie.
Well, yeah, because there's no cut. You can see him throw the gun, and then he says his line, and then he adios amigo, and then rolls back out.
And this was pre Tom Cruise doing all of his cool stuff, because I love Tom Cruise. But before Tom Cruise was doing Tom Cruise, this Patrick Swayze was jumping out of an airplane when actors were not jumping out of airplanes, and there were no special effects in this movie. It's all in camera effects.
Yeah. Josh and I love practical. We love actual. Yeah, we love all that stuff. CGI has gone crazy. It's too much, man.
It's stupid. It ruins a movie before you even see it. I mean, it really does. I haven't seen anybody do it good. I haven't seen any movie that I'm like, I believe that. It's like, but that's whatever. That we live in that world. But yeah, this was one of those things that you look back and you go, this is cool, because it's one of the last waves of movies that made such a powerful impact on its genre at the end of the 80s, the beginning of the 90s, and did it in such a way where you didn't need you didn't need to be sold on post-production. You were sold in camera. Mm-hmm. What you see is what you get, basically. And I love that. I mean, that is where the craft of filmmaking, I think, resides. And that's why.
So since Swayze was so like method and like wanted to be in the moment and stuff and do his own stuff, did he ever try to convince you and John and Katherine and all the guys to like maybe actually rob some banks, to be, to like really rob a bank? Like, BoJesse, let's do this. What do you think, dude?
Probably got tossed around once or twice, but I don't have a memory of that. Yeah, I have other memories of actually being inside the banks, because we spent so much time on those sets, and there's so many moving parts in those sequences. There are so many cameras and so many things going on. And they're burning film at that time, which is really incredible, because it's like that's expensive, and they're just shooting so much of it. And James Cameron's executive producing and standing, watching behind monitors while his wife is directing. It's so cool. The whole thing is just so cool. All of it. Just talking about the movies is incredible, because it's like there's so many things you can just focus on and be like, that's cool. James Cameron produced this thing while he was prepping T2.
Yeah, that's the same exact time frame, 1991, 1990. That's the same exact window. That's insane.
So there's 2 stories I want to tell. There's the story where he would look at me and say, hey, BoJesse, can I talk to you? And I say, yeah, James Cameron, you want to talk to me? Sure. And he's like, I'm prepping T2. you probably saw the first movie. Yeah, I saw Terminator. It's fucking great, man. Are you available on Sundays to come to my studio and test a new technology I'm trying to use for the effect in T2? So the liquid effect. And so I would stand in on a green screen, and he would use me as a subject to morph and create this effect that became the special effect in T2.
Are you kidding? Is there any film of that like anywhere?
Sure, he's got it. I'm sure he's got it. I don't think that he is planning on doing anything with that, but like I didn't end up in the movie. I thought I was going to end up in the movie. I thought I was going to be the Robert Patrick role. It turns out there's actually two reasons why it didn't work out, because here's the thing. I was too young for the role, but he really liked me and really liked what I was doing in Point Break. And I was getting really good feedback from producers and things. And like, you got to see BoJesse. He's this up and coming kid. Right. And I'm 18 years old, almost 19 years old. And I'm an up and comer, someone to look at. And he's like, on Sundays, will you do this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do this thing. And I have great jawline and still do, but like I had a really good, like he liked the symmetrical aspect of my face. He's like, I want to recreate your prototype and do this technology. And he explained it to me. And I thought maybe I'd get the role. There's two things that happened. One, I was too young, but also we kept filming Point Break. I was booked for 12 weeks. It turned into 9 months of work, and I was just on Point Break for an extended period of time, and I wasn't unavailable, when they were starting. So there was some overlap where maybe it was going to happen, which is such a cool story to tell. But also, it's one of those things that breaks my heart, because I would have liked to have been in both movies, and they both opened up against each other in the box office the first weekend. They were like, T2 opened up the weekend before, and then Point Break opened up the following weekend, but T2 still beat it. And in that opening weekend, it was like they're competing against each other. Anyway, so getting back to the bank stuff, I remember Swayze in full mask with the big gun, big Colt 45 or whatever he had. I think that's what it was. It was that, Clint Eastwood style gun, giant gun. And we would be like outside the banks, and cameras would be inside the banks, and we'd wait to hear for action. And there's like people outside that would call, okay, action, like they called action, go in. And then we come into these banks, and the cameras would start recording everything as the chaos ensues. It was all choreographed. And when we were outside the banks, Swayze, he liked to have fun, man. He was a Texan. He liked to have fun and rouse people. We're on Wilshire Boulevard, and it was rush hour one day, and there were cars kind of like lined up, like, in traffic, and kind of going, what's going on? Those guys in the mask with guns. And I had a Mossberg sawed-off shotgun, and everyone's got their gun, and we're in masks. It looks like we're robbing a bank. If you don't see that there's movie trucks around, it looks like someone's robbing a bank. So to get back to robbing a bank, Swayze just jumps into traffic, starts stopping traffic, waving his gun around, saying, get out of your car, do all this like crazy fun stuff that I guess, at that time he felt it was okay to do. And I remember there was a grip, big guy grip that didn't know it was Swayze behind the mask. And he knew that we were actors, but he was like, just came on the movie for a day or something and didn't really know who was under the mask. And he goes, hey, you can't fucking do that. You're a fucking actor. Get it, you're at. And he like chewed Swayze out. And Swayze ripped off his fucking mask, right? And then just threw it on the ground and walked up and fucking punched the guy in the face.
Wait, for real?
Yeah.
Was the guy on the set the next day? Was he?
I got fired. Guy got fired. Yeah, and I was like, oh shit, Swayze put on his mask, and then I heard action, and we all ran into the bank, and then we went, and that was that. That was that. Yeah, it was kind of crazy,
Who decided? So I know that Reagan was obviously going to be Swayze, but who decided that like Gromit is LBJ? Like, was there a chance that you were going to be Nixon or Carter?
I think it's in the script. Like Peter Iliff came up with those characters, and so the masks were assigned to those characters in the writing. And so by the time you were cast, you knew you'd be LBJ or Nixon, whoever. And it's cool because then like James LeGros got to kind of figure out how he wanted to kind of connect to the persona of Nixon and a lot of that stuff. I am not a crook. He improvised that. Like, I am not that on the way out of the bank. He did that. That's him in the moment, just making a choice and then doing the whole tricky dick thing. And I thought that was so cool to watch people come up with things and just do it. And, my thing clearly was, mooning the surveillance camera and having the thank you on my butt. And so I thought that was enough of a statement, but whatever, Yeah.
Your character, dude, DNA wise, was the one who you were the link to Busey and Keanu, man, because your butt cheeks left the DNA, man, the sex wax. That's
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah. So I joked with Gary yesterday. I said, Gary, we never did a scene together in the movie, but I was on the call sheet every day. We all were, even days we didn't work. So I was always hanging out around Gary. So knew Gary, but we never were on camera together.
Yeah.
And so we were in sequences like car chase and stuff like that. But I said,
yeah.
Gary, the only scene that we actually did together is when you're looking at my ass on the screen with Keanu and you're studying my tan line and my ass is like this big and it says, thank you. And, he got a kick out of that. So that was fun to share with Gary, but that was me. Yeah.
What that gang, what the group really needed was that overly serious surfer kid to be the leader,
Yeah, man.
Co-op the group with Swayze. That little kid was fierce, man.
I love that. I think that's cool. I love it. And who knows, had it not gone awry, maybe Gromit would have, came into his own. We'd see, we'd see a different side of Gromit, the evolution of Gromit, which would be a cool little alt take on the Point Break universe. Who knows?
There's you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I got to look at what I wrote here. There's a How to Rob a Bank, and you're credited as Gromit. What's going on there? What's this all about?
So have you seen that?
I haven't seen it. I just saw it.
So so it's about a guy it's a documentary about a guy who watched Point Break, who then took the template of the ex-presidents robbing banks and made his own version of how to rob banks and robbed banks and got away with it. And then in the end, finally met his demise with his final bank robbery. Very similarly to the way Point Break ends up. And so there's some testimony from people who were in Point Break, and then there's some on screen, I think there's some clips and stuff of Point Break in that documentary, and they kind of bounce back and forth because he references that was his approach to how he used to rob banks. So that's part of How to Rob a Bank.
Okay. Can I ask you a question about the Point Break 2015?
Sure.
I gotta ask you this.
Oh,
So hey, Josh, did you know he's in both Point Breaks?
Oh, I did not know that. I was going to ask about this remake.
He's in both, and also, so he kind of plays like the Michael or the John McGinley role. You're kind of like the FBI guy, right?
Yeah, I'm the director of the FBI in the remake.
Did you talk to John at all to like get a feel for like that kind of character at all, or?
No, but boy, okay, just very quick, and I'm an actor, so I love to tell a story. So John C. McGinley is so good in Point Break, right? I mean, we just know, like, Harp, he's so good, man. Again, another actor who just crushes it. We could talk about John C. McGinley and his character all day long. He's so good. So there was no way I was trying to, bring a harp thing to my character, and I didn't have enough to say in the remake, quite frankly. I basically grew into a look and a feel. I'm a man of a certain age. For me, it was an opportunity, one, to do more Point Break, but also it was a big movie, big studio movie. It was $100 million remake. Warner Brothers, they're going to fly me to Berlin, Germany. I'd never been to Berlin, Germany. I was trying to get back into acting because I took a bunch of years off, and I was like, this is a great opportunity to get back into the thing. And then I was like, okay, cool. Also, I can play a character that looks more of the type that I am now, and I'll probably be able to audition for and create some opportunity for myself. And so I just went in there and just found BoJesse in this moment, this man of a certain age. If I were on the other side of the law in this, this tight little uniform space of government work, going after these guys. And I just tried to lean into more of the art of finding myself in that moment. And it was cool. I know that the fans had a lot of pushback and, wasn't a great reflection of the OG Point Break universe, but ultimately it's an action movie that was made for a lot of money, and it's a fine movie if you didn't call it Point Break. And I know a lot of people are mad that it's called Point Break, but it's fine. You know what I mean? It's a movie. And then I met some great friends on that movie, some great creative collaborators, and Alcon, who made the movie, they recognized that, you know, that maybe they didn't service it as authentically as maybe they feel in retrospect they would have, and felt like they did a little bit of a disservice to the fan base. And if they had another opportunity, and they do have another opportunity to get it right, they will make good on it and bring it back to the original zeitgeist and bring the original collaborators into the fold and make something together that feels more like Point Break. And so that's my short story there. Yeah.
I think the best Point Break remake wasn't the 2015 one. I think it was Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. I mean,
dude, BoJesse, dude, that's a straight ripoff, right? Come on.
Yeah, it is. I know firsthand it is.
Okay, thank you.
I knew Paul Walker, and Paul was a huge Point Break fan, and his manager Matt Luber is also a really good friend of mine, and we shared an office, Matt Luber and I, and that's how I knew Paul. And Paul was a fan of Point Break. He used to come to the office, and we talk all things Point Break. But they were developing this new idea around Point Break in cars, and it was called Fast and the Furious. So I was there at the beginning of all that, and watched them, you know, take that IP and make 26, 27 movies out of it, whatever it is.
Incredible. No, seriously, I remember seeing that movie. And I listen, I had watched Point Break. I'm not joking, because when you grew up in the 90s and the 80s, we didn't have a lot of money, so I probably had 12 tapes. One of them was Point Break, Boys in the Hood. I had Next of Kin with Buddy. So I had all these, a lot of Swayze, a lot of whatever. I went to Point Break a lot, so I had every line memorized, every scene. As soon as I see them robbing the trucks, I'm like, there we go. I know who it is. I know who the bank robbers are. I know who Paul Walker is. He's Keanu. Boom, 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 boom.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a great template. It's an homage. I mean, you know, it's paying tribute to a really great movie, Point Break. I mean, you know, structurally, it was just a really, really sound, beautiful movie. And then all the moving parts and the living, breathing, you know, aspect of humans kind of taking it and making it their own from the camera. And Katherine Bigelow, certainly Katherine Bigelow was such an amazing, innovative director, and so fearless, and has such a strong vision, and just gets it, and is cool, and like just understands what she's going for, and how to find it. Even when it's not there, she finds it somewhere and makes something out of it. And then it just translates. It's a Katherine Bigelow film. It's so cool, you know?
I think that the one thing about Katherine Bigelow doing the movie, which I think adds another layer of like a female action director in the early 90s was like kind of not a thing. And I think that with her taking on the helm and like having a female touch to it, I think it added more, like the dialogue even. I think that like Lori Petty's character, there was more layers of like realism to some of the discussions and the dialogue that came off the page, I think. Does that make sense at all? Like, because if a guy writes for a girl, you can tell. If that makes, I don't know. I feel like being.
You're right. No, okay. You're right. No. You're right. I mean, I agree. I think it's such a great thing to touch on, because, you know, so many of those movies and so many movies are written by men, you know, for women. And so like the voice is sort of feels like it still puts them in a construct, and maybe they're like, I'll say it because I'm paid to say it. But like in a way they're like, I don't want to say this, you know? So I feel, to your point, that Katherine gets in there with someone like Lori, for example, and there's just a sisterhood, but also Lori is like a brother sister, you know, like she gets it. She's on both. She's just down. She's just so cool. Like, but she's so good at just being authentically her that she takes this stuff, and it's like no one else can say it the way she's saying it, because it's Lori as Tyler, you know, like Tyler is Lori. And, you know, and like, it's, to me, that's, you look at the casting process, and like, I don't know, maybe they auditioned 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other gals, but like Lori comes through because no one can do it like Lori, because there's only one Lori, and she finds a way to it in a way that no one else can, and finds a connection to it in a way that, you know, it goes back to Peter Iliff wrote a really great template for her, but then somehow Lori makes it hers, and then Katherine gets in there and lets Lori fly in front of the camera, like recognizes Lori's special thing that's going on and rolls camera on it. You know what I mean? Lets her shine in front of the camera. And Katherine's really good at seeing what's in front of the lens, and then saying, let's not force it or bend it to our will. Let's honor it. Let's go to that. Let's go to that thing and make more of that come through. And that's what I feel a good filmmaker is too, is, you know, you're completely ready by design, but then you get in there and whatever's in front of your lens, you're seeing it, you're kind of going to that, because it's always something that's fluid. The cinematic flow, you know.
You got to work with Lori again, right, on Tank Girl?
I did. Yeah.
Love
She
that
put me
film.
in the movie, man. It's so cool. She, you know, she's my sister. I talked to her yesterday. I talked to all these people, man. I get around, bro. I get
My first crush.
That's incredible.
I get
That
around.
you guys that you know what I noticed in researching you, BoJesse? You like have this personality that like I don't know you, but I feel like if you're somebody's friend, you're like their friend forever. Like I get that vibe from you. Is that
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really feel like that.
Thank you. I am absolutely that person. And I love to communicate with my people, and I love to meet new people. Lori is my sister. I text her, I'm with Gary. We miss you. And she texts us right back, miss you both, hearts, all the things, right? So, well, I forget the original question, but I love Lori Petty. What were we talking about?
No, I was just saying. Well, I was just saying that like you got to be in Tank Girl, but
Tank
the
Girl.
Katherine Bigelow kind of situation, like her female touch or whatever. But
Yeah,
you know,
but Tank Girl was great because Lori literally, when she was prepping that, it was such a big movie, you know, and Tank Girl's such a cool IP, and you know, such a specific, beloved fan base for that, and she's so cool in as she is Tank Girl, and she literally called me and goes, "You want to be in the movie?" I said, "Okay, yeah." Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, all right, cool. You're in the movie," and I was like, "Okay," and I got a call from production, and they set me up. It was like a couple days on the film, and put me in a bunch of prosthetics, and I was a kangaroo and lived in a tree with iced tea, and it was awesome. You know, they put me in this prosthetic makeup, and I had these dreadlocks, and I was a kangaroo, a talking kangaroo, and my younger brother and sister flew in from Indiana, and they were just there, and I said, "Come visit me. I'm working on this movie," and they came to lunch, and I was in the prosthetic, so they couldn't recognize me, and I sat there and had lunch with my brother and sister who hadn't seen me in a couple of years, but they were having lunch with the kangaroo.
They're like, things have changed, BoJesse. Hollywood has changed you.
Like, this is weird. You know, they had this like look on their face the whole time, and then they left and went back to Indiana, and they only saw me behind the prosthetics of the kangaroo and the dreadlocks and all the things.
You're like pulling your lunch out of your kangaroo pouch. You're like, hey, everything's fine. Like I got you like some snacks here. Like, go ahead.
It was weird. It's super cool and weird. But that's Lori. She's like, "You want to be in the movie? Cool. Yeah, you're in the movie." I was like, "Okay."
Dude, she was in A League of Their Own. Was that her? Did you ever talk to her about that? Because you were a baseball guy. Was that her like throwing the ball and like hitting the ball? Did you talk to her or that was after? League of Their Own was afterwards.
It was after Point Break, but she's great in the film, and that's such a great cast. And Penny Marshall, who I knew also, and she's an amazing gal. Penny Marshall. I mean, Laverne and Shirley. Come on,
Laverne, dude.
But I don't think Lori ever talked to me about the baseball stuff. But she's so athletic that I guarantee she threw the ball and hit the ball. And maybe there might have been some. I'd have to look at the movie. Maybe there might have been some sequences where they had people in there doing some stunts. But you know, she probably did everything she could. You know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's like that. She's awesome.
Okay, so we're talking about sports. I need to talk to you about Jesse. We got the football scene on the beach. Okay. Keanu and Patrick are going after each other on the beach. Yes, number nine. That's your line. Swayze gets tackled into the ocean. But how did Keanu like just truck Roach 5 times on the same play? With the like, if you watch it back, you can see that Roach gets absolutely housed 5 times by Keanu on the same play. How long is that beach? What's going on here?
First of all, I love that you watched it that much to be able to like have this question set up. So I think it's great because I just remember making that movie and like shooting those night shoots. We would like get there like 6 p.m. and work till 6 a.m. and it was like all night doing football and tackling each other and drinking coffee and going paddling out in the ocean, trying to surf at night, all kinds of fun things, wrestling each other, doing push-up contests, all the things that we thought were macho and cool at the time and probably still are, but you know, like
still are. I don't know what you're saying.
Still cool, yeah. But I'm trying to think. The beach was long. It was a big beach, but you know, it's a movie, so like they have to create the drama, right? So they shoot this thing. They probably use different angles, and I'm trying to remember that sequence because there was a lot of moving parts in that. But so Keanu just tackles.
So Keanu is like, he is after Swayze, and I almost, since I've watched this movie 1,000 times, I think it's like I think it's a comparison to like Keanu chasing Swayze as Bodhi. Like they're trying to make that parallel, okay?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Swayze, and Swayze is gonna be caught. Keanu's gonna get him. But anyway, he's chasing him, dude. Swayze's scored a touchdown 20 yards back. And Keanu's still chasing him, tackles him into the ocean. But
yeah.
Roach, I'm telling you, Roach got blocked like 6 times on that play.
On that play,
On that one play, it's the editing. It's like the Flintstones loop when you'd
okay,
have the background. I'm
wow.
I'm telling you, BoJesse, it
I love
happened.
it. I think it's cool because it's one of those things where they use like some movie magic to
Oh yeah,
create tension, but when you look at it, you go, "That's a mistake. That's a mistake. That's a mistake." But because it's like not realistic, because he already blocked him, so how could he go back and block
yeah,
him?
he's on the ground. He's
But I love that they can kind of use that approach in the edit to kind of create the tension to extend the scene because of what you're saying, with Keanu and Swayze's, I'll get you, I'm close, I'll get you, I'm close. And then they finally do, and there's that tension, there's that moment, and then there's that
oh yeah.
realization that, oh, okay, we're one with each other. You're my twin flame in that weird way.
Was there? I want to, dude. Was there any? Okay, what was Gromit's in your opinion? What was his opinion of Johnny Utah? Like, did you ever? Like, did you like did Gromit like him? Was he nervous about him? Because they never really elaborate on that.
It's a good question. I think what I was tracking, because a lot of it is kind of like I have to figure out my story arc, because a lot of it is a movie. And so sometimes there's characters that are part of the ensemble, but they're not really thought through in that through line way. In this regard, Gromit was, but I think I had to do a lot of like reinforcing that, which to the point of like calling Swayze calling me at midnight and us talking, and like that helped build a nice arc. And I think what I was tracking with when Utah came on the scene, it's like, number 9, man, like I was like, yeah, okay, my brother watches you. I'm not really a football guy, but you're that number 9 guy. Okay, cool. Like, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you're cool, but like, I'm not really paying attention to you because I want to surf and maybe look at chicks. Like, yeah. So I think that when he starts coming in to play with us, basically, because we take him along for the ride, and do all the things, I start to. I'm just trying. I think I keep my eye on him. I think what I was thinking was, if my brother likes him, he's cool, but like that's sort of taking attention away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know if I like that. And so I'm tracking that, as the younger brother. And I'm still trying to play it cool because I want my older brother to think I'm cool. I'm one of them, but I'm just his younger brother. And so there's a lot of that like I want my brother's approval, but I'm not gonna be desperate about it. I'm gonna play it cool. I think I was working with that internally.
Okay. Okay.
That was fun for me because I was a young actor looking up to Patrick Swayze, and then Keanu Reeves was pulling Patrick Swayze's attention to Keanu Reeves, and I was like, "But look at BoJesse." Do you know what I mean? So I was
Yes.
using that dynamic
Art imitating life, like for real. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was fun to track. And same thing with the other guys, with James LeGros and John Philbin. Like those guys were like my other, brothers, and in that context. But like Bodhi was my brother, and those two
Mm-hmm.
guys were like my brother's best friends and like sidekicks. But like I wanted to be cool for everybody, but they kind of were like, "You're cool, but you're Bodhi's younger brother." And there was a lot of really fun like informal method acting happening because everyone was really, it was a brotherhood, but there was a dynamic that was felt. I was the youngest guy. There was a little bit of like BoJesse's kind of annoying because he's the younger guy, not because I was annoying, but because BoJesse was less experienced than the other guys. BoJesse was newer to movie making. BoJesse, so it was like it really helped the dynamic in front of the camera because I also had something. I had it naturally, it turns out, but I was aware that I still had to kind of earn my keep as BoJesse, but also as Gromit. And so a lot of that energy really came through in the dynamic of the scenes. And when I was looking at Keanu, I was looking at Keanu Reeves because I'm also thinking I really admire this guy as an actor, but I'm also tracking he's Johnny Utah. He's taking my thunder away from he's taking the focus away from my brother. So like it was really something that I was working with. I didn't have in this like, oh, he's FBI. I didn't have that going on. I had more like, oh, he's just taking my brother's attention away from me.
Okay.
And
I
then,
see that.
yeah. And then when we find out he's FBI and I'm aware of that, then I didn't make a conscious shift to be like, fuck this guy. You know, we got to get out of here. You
Mhm.
listen to me. You know what I mean? We got to get out of here. We're family. Now it's like, fuck the stakes, Bodie. You know what I mean? Like enough's enough. Like I'm going to put a voice to it now, which was the importance of writing that stuff in there too. Yeah,
It's
that's
awesome
fun.
you got to do that.
Yeah.
Got to write some lines and everything. A lot of actors don't get that opportunity. So
No. And once in a while you can say something and it just ends up in the show. Like I did True Detective season 3, which is a really cool show.
yes.
Oh yeah, saw it.
Oh, did you film anything in Arkansas?
I did. Yeah, we did.
Did you film in Mountainburg, Arkansas?
Maybe north. Is it northwest
Yeah.
Arkansas?
They
WA?
came to my little town of about 500-600 people and filmed a lot of the season
there.
here.
Must have been there. Yeah.
Real
I
small.
don't specifically, yeah, because I did 2 episodes and then they mentioned my character in all 8 episodes. But and then they shoot you out, like they do a thing called crossboarding where they shoot you out in 1 week and they do all the episodes in the 1 week and they do all the scenes that you're in, all the locations you're in inside 1 week, and they schedule it so they can save money. So I was just there. I forget the little town I was in, but it was northwest Arkansas. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I bet you were here then because it's a really small town, like 600 people. Just
It was cool. I liked the town. Wherever I was, I
very
liked it.
peaceful here. Very peaceful. I do enjoy
Yeah.
that aspect of it.
I really enjoyed being there. I was there, I think, a week and a half, and I didn't want to leave. I mean, I wanted to keep doing the show, obviously, but I liked where I was at. But there was, Nick Pizzolatto, who's the showrunner, the creator of the show, writes and directs a lot of the episodes. He was directing episode 3 and 4, or 2 and 3, I can't remember, but the second episode I was doing, he was directing that episode, and I was like, okay, he's the writer. Like I got to say everything perfect the way he wrote it, and I had to learn the scene the night before because it was top secret and you didn't get scripts and the whole thing. So he hands me, the scene. He says, I'll see you tomorrow. I go, I memorize this thing, I just cram it in my brain, and then when I get there, I've got the scene, but at the very end of the scene, Mahershala Ali says something to me, and then I walk away without saying anything. But on the day when we filmed it, Mahershala says something to me, and instead of me looking at him walking away, I say something back to him and get the final word in, and it just came to me, and then I walked off, and then I remember thinking, Nick's gonna fight. He's not gonna like that. He's gonna be like, you can't do that, man. And he came over to me and he goes, I really like that. That was cool. I'm leaving that in.
Okay.
So once in a while, if it comes to you and it makes sense and it happens in the moment, you write your way into these things, and so that was a critical example of how it worked for me, but it could work against an actor as well. Yeah.
You didn't just do that for yourself, BoJesse. You're being modest. You would write lines for your friends like Rainbow at the party scene, right? Didn't you get your buddy in the movie Point Break? Didn't he even have a line?
Yeah. How do you know about Rainbow?
I know all about this. I do my
Alex
research,
is a
my
professional
friend.
stalker.
Yeah, I'm a BoJesse stan. Okay.
Great, man.
No,
Rainbow
coming
was
on the
my
show, and oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's awesome. I love that you're mentioning Rainbow. Rainbow is my very first best friend in Los Angeles. Rainbow Borden is a artist, beautiful mind and soul, human being who befriended me before anyone else did in LA. I was new to LA. And the short story is, because of Rainbow, I have an acting career. And I mean that because I could have probably figured out, but it's sliding doors, man. You walk into one sliding door, you meet Rainbow, and this is what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
You walk into another sliding door, Rainbow, and you don't meet, and who knows how it all would have went down. It's like a Black Mirrors episode. Who knows, right? They both can be really cool and really beautiful, but I met Rainbow. And so Rainbow introduced me to Brian Austin Green. Brian Austin Green took me to his audition, so it's just like the chain of events. So I had to pay it forward, to Rainbow. One, because he was still at the time, and still very, very dear to me. He was like my best friend, and I was all of a sudden in a big movie, and I had an opportunity to put people in front of the camera at a party scene. I was like, Katherine Bigelow, you need to meet my friend Rainbow. He's awesome. He's special. He's great. And so he did like a little meeting with her, and she took the time to meet him. And then she's like, okay, you're in the movie. You know, you're going to be Gromit's friend. You know, you're going to sit right next to Gromit, and you're going to dance, and you're going to be in the campfire scene, and you're going to do the whole, you're going to be around. Like, you're in the movie. And she did this, she did the same thing with my friend Chris Pettit, who was in my acting class, who was the kid in the surf shop.
Oh, yeah, he was in Don't Tell Mom, the Babysitters. He passed away, unfortunately.
That's the kid I was saying would have been great to help rob the banks in the movie. Like he, you know, yelled at Keanu Reeves and everything.
Yes.
But
Chris Pettit had whatever you see on screen, like charisma. I don't know what that word is.
He was great.
But what he had it. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't even his eyes. He had beautiful eyes. Great.
He
presence.
delivered his lines like a grown up. Like
he was very good.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Chris Pettit just for a sec, because, you know, as an homage in a way. But so Rainbow, my dear friend, ended up in the movie because, you know, he was my bestie, and he deserved it, man, because he was as talented as anybody in the movie, and also, you know, was largely responsible for me being in the movie in that way, that he introduced me to so many cool people that I still stay in touch with. And Rainbow is still around and doing the thing, and has a beautiful family, and we talk, you know, every couple months. And so thanks for mentioning Rainbow. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome.
Chris Pettit, real quickly, was in my first acting class, actually my second acting class in LA when I moved to LA from San Francisco. Kevin McDermott was the acting. It was Kevin McDermott's something for child actors, something like that. River Phoenix was in the acting class. There was a bunch of people in the acting class, and Chris Pettit was in my class. So Chris Pettit was the first actor I ever got on stage with in an acting class in LA. So that was really cool. So we had a scene together where he played my younger brother, and so him and I were like this, and he's another one of those actors. When I did Point Break, I said to Katherine Bigelow, you got to meet Chris Pettit, because he would be perfect for this kid. And so he got in the movie because of that, which I love, you know, and sadly, Chris is no longer with us, but I remember him fondly, and like, you know, he was there at the beginning of my acting career.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, cool, you know, to talk
about.
Chris
Pettit, no, for real. He was one of those kids, or one of those actors that if you grew up in the 90s or you grew up in the 80s, you've seen him and you've definitely appreciated his work, because he's in it. So he's in Point Break, and he's in Don't Tell Mom, the Babysitter's Dead. Those movies aren't just Point Break's like a blockbuster, but like Don't Tell Mom is more of a cult film. Yeah. But he has a huge presence on film. He's good. He's really good.
I was almost in Don't Tell Mom, the Babysitter's Dead. I was going to be the Josh Charles role, and he beat me out. It was between him and I. And then my friend Keith Coogan is in that movie, and then Christina
Breakfast is done, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's so cool to look back at all those, because you're like, oh yeah, man, you know, I got close on that one. But like, I love that all my friends who are still my friends were in those movies, and they're bringing all those movies to the cons, and like, you know, and fans are able to interact, and people are able to talk about the excitement and the fun that they all had watching those movies. That's cool.
Oh. Hey, BoJesse, I got a very important question career-wise.
Yeah.
And this is going to go back. I don't know if you remember this. Now, you get the role on Point Break. It's life-changing. How did Sports Connection take it? And did they accept your 2-week notice when you handed it in? So you got the job at Sports Connection. You said, hey, I'm going to go work with Swayze. I can't work here anymore. Did you finish your 2-week notice? Did they accept it?
Well, this is a Rainbow thing, you know, because that's where I met Rainbow. Rainbow was working at the Sports Connection. Sports Connection was on Sepulveda Boulevard and Ventura Boulevard, right behind the Sherman Oaks Galleria, which is like, I think the most world famous mall there is, because all those cool 80s movies were, every mall thing, you know, that was in every 80s movie was at the Sherman Oaks Galleria.
Back to the Future, wasn't that filmed in the parking lot?
Yeah.
I'm almost positive.
Also Weird Science, you know, just any movie, you know, there was the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger that was, there was some where they're in a mall. I don't know. They're all in a mall.
Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
when he's chasing Dominic's father, right?
Kindergarten Cop. Yep. And I also
Yes.
think that Mallrats was in the Sherman Oaks Galleria. I think that
Really?
unless that was like a mall wherever Kevin Smith lived, but to me, I just watched it recently. I'm like, I think that's the Sherman Oaks Galleria. But anyway, so I'm working that job. I'm new to LA. I had a modeling career in San Francisco while I was in high school. I was doing commercials, and that was a whole gateway to get to LA and get into acting. And then I got to LA, I got settled in, got that job at Sports Connection, knowing that I was like going to be a serious actor now. I didn't want to model, you know, I didn't want to model, you know, I wanted to act. And so I was like, I could totally have just come through and probably probably done fine. And like modeling gigs could have paid bills, but I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, I'm not a model, I'm an actor, I'm a serious actor. And so I'm going to get a real job. You know, so I got my real job at the Sports Connection because my roommate at the time was the punter for the Dallas Cowboys.
My team. My friend.
Yeah.
What was his name?
His name was Scott Leet, but this
Oh,
is
dude. But BoJesse, he's on Tecmo Bowl.
Oh,
Very
really?
very familiar with them. And by the way, BoJesse, my job before we started Slash Tracks, I was like a sports radio guy for Fox Sports. So my
Okay.
background is sports.
Really?
So-
That's so cool. Well,
Yeah, I'm a
Scott Leet
sports
is
guy.
also a very accomplished actor. So I mean, so this guy is, so anyway, long story short is, he works out, he's got a membership at the Sports Connection. He's like, you should go apply there, then you get free, you work out for free and it's a job.
Yeah.
So I went and I met Rainbow, and Rainbow's like, hey, you look cool. What's your name? Let me introduce you to my general manager. And then I walked out with a job as a receptionist. The rest is history with Rainbow. But when I booked, trying to think if I was working there, I might have not been working there.
Dang it.
I'm thinking maybe I got a couple. I don't know, man. This is a good question because it makes me wonder. I might have quit that job because I got a couple other little small acting jobs in between. I thought,
Okay.
oh, I really made it now. I've got, $500 in my account. I'm cool now, like I'm good. And then I got Point Break, something like that. I think that was the case because I also know that I think I quit that job because I was also cleaning Brian Austin Green's parents' gutters. Like I was,
Okay.
I was $100 here, $100 there, doing that. I was doing all the things to make money, so I must not have left the job. But I'll tell you what, those people had my back at Sports Connection. They were rooting for me. And so in answer to your question, they would have said, excellent. You know what I mean? Because there was a moment when I met Shelley Winters, two-time Academy Award-winning Shelley Winters at Sports Connection because she came in and I didn't know who she was. And the general manager who hired me at Sports Connection said, Shelley, you got to meet BoJesse. He's an up-and-coming actor. I'm going to give him a 5-minute break so we can sit and talk with you. So they were really supportive of like my career early on. And looking back, I'm like, wow, that was pretty awesome. And you just posed the only time anyone's ever mentioned the Sports Connection as a question. And I love that, man.
Listen, I like do my research and that's kind of like what my thing is a little bit, but if I'm interested in the topic,
Yeah.
I'm all in, dude. Hey, I got another question. So did Soleil's, okay, since you're doing some yard work, for Brian Austin Green's parents, did that translate to like, hey man, BoJesse's pretty good at this? Did Soleil Moon Fry's mom ever like have you mow her lawn or like wash cars or anything? Because you guys were all in that same friend group, okay?
Yeah, no, it's so great. No, but I love Soleil so much. I mean, Soleil Moon Fry has been my friend since 1988 and still one of my best friends. She's just one of the most beautiful, kind, giving hearts that I've ever had the opportunity to know. And in those days, she would have done anything she would have done anything for me, if I needed. I had lots of really good friend support. I really did. I had a lot of really wonderful people saying, look, if you need anything, let us know. So I was always like, no, I can do this on my own. Like I'm going to get this done. I'm going to find a way. But even though they weren't my family, I had a really good extended family of people that would have said, hey, you can stay here or we can feed you or give you some gas money. But I was very much of the mind that I was like, okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But I'm going to go find a way to get this done because that's the only way I'm going to figure out how to get it done. But thank you. So it's cool for you to talk about all those great people who were still my friends, by the way, all these years later. Yeah.
Soleil Moon Frye, like no joke, like Punky Brewster. Say she was on Saved by the Bell a couple episodes as the villain. Okay,
Yeah.
she was dating Zach for a little bit. She kind of got some bootleg graduation rings. We celebrate all of Soleil's work on the channel, and we actually Pumpkinhead 4. She like starred in Pumpkinhead 4, and we have a web series, BoJesse, where we riff bad movies. She
Okay.
was like the only one that you couldn't really riff because she was fully committed into her scenes in that movie.
She knocked it
Yeah,
out.
you couldn't. She was doing a good job. She was doing the best she could with what they wrote for her.
Even
Yeah,
Lance Henriksen was phoning it in, but she was nailing it. So.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen that movie, but I do love her. And I love Lance Henriksen, by the way. And
we do too. Love him.
Yeah.
Like it's
I was going to say, I did work with Mark Paul Gosselaar.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned Jack in another movie I did with Gary Busey that I forgot I did until I met with Gary yesterday, called Sticks and Stones. And it's a really cool, kind of like a Stand By Me thing. But I just remember working with Mark Paul Gosselaar and thinking I wasn't going to like him. And I showed up and he was the sweetest, nicest guy. And I was like, oh, he's so cool. I was expecting him to kind of not like me because maybe we compete, like we had a competing look. He was much more popular because he had a show. But like, I was like, oh, he actually is really cool. And what a sweetheart of a guy. But I only mentioned that because you said Zach, and then it just made me think of him, and then made me think of working with Gary in 2 movies, and then it brings us back to just the gifts and the opportunities and all of the fortunate stuff that I feel my body of work has been able to experience all these years, which is cool to reminisce.
So Mark Paul Gosselaar, like I was a huge Saved by the Bell fan growing up, and one thing I noticed about him outside of this, because he's not Zach Morris like at all. That's not him at all. He's not super outgoing. He's reserved. He's a family guy from what I see. And he's really into fitness, which you are, right? Yeah. You both into fitness. Yeah. He's not a natural blonde. You are. So
I don't know.
Are you a natural blonde?
I'm looking at all the gray and the brown, but I think I discovered recently. My girlfriend thinks she goes, "You're a redhead. I'm a redhead, and not like, but I'm a stealthy. What's it called? Where you kind of
like a strawberry blonde."
Yeah, I'm more. I hide the red. It's more of a coppery thing, but it gets blonde. It does get blonde when I surf and stuff, and I think I probably accelerated the blonde with some bleaching back in the day. But like, anyway, yeah. But I know where you're going with that. Yeah, he's not that guy. He's not. Yeah.
Was there ever a role? Because Josh and I both agreed in the green room before you came in. You probably had the best hair in the early '90s. Was there ever a role where they were like, BoJesse, if you get this role, man, you may have to cut your hair? Like, where would you have stood with that?
Totally fine with it because I rocked that hair for so many years. When I first came into the business, there's a cool, and you've got it now, Josh. Like, you've got the hair now. I wish I had that. I'm envious a little bit. My hairline was probably here. It was probably here.
Alex told me you were coming on a few weeks ago, so I was as short as his, and I just like grew it out like that in honor.
You took some what's it called, biotin, biocell. You just shot a 40 ounce of biotin and grew your hair out.
He looks like the White Ranger from the Power Rangers right now. He looks like Jason David Frank.
I love it, man. But yeah, it's cool to change your look for like a movie or a TV show. It's fun, as an actor. I love the blonde because that was like hanging out. Like, I'm this guy, I'm cool, I've got the hair. And when you're young and you're in your 20s, you are cool because everyone's cool when they're 20. Because life is about being cool. So it felt like that was the moment. And a couple other people that I really were emulating and could relate to, like River Phoenix and Christian Slater and my friend Steven Dorff and probably Ethan Hawke. That was my competition. A lot of those guys had bigger stars, were doing more things, but I was kind of in the mix in all that. Like, I was the up and coming guy in that mix. Those were the guys that I was literally competing against. Like, they could lose their job and I might take their job. Like, in other words, I would come in and audition for these things. Those guys might get the offer, but if they messed up the offer, they might hire BoJesse because BoJesse came in and auditioned for that thing. Like, I was in the mix in that thing. And so I had to kind of keep that look. I had to have that look. I was competing in that look. because that was the thing. We remember that. That was the end of the 80s, early 90s. There was a look to the hair.
90, 91, 92, skating, surfing magazines, all that stuff.
Had the blonde, the bangs in the face, the whole like Leo had it, but Leo, and I love Leo. Leo's my friend, and Leo's a mega star, right? But like Leo had that look after I had that look.
97, yeah. Leo was like Titanic. 97. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Like 96-ish.
What's the other kid? Jonathan Taylor Thomas? Is that his name?
Simba.
Yeah. He had that look after I had that look. So that is a fact. It's a fact. You go back, you look at
they ripped it from BoJesse.
Well, I'm not saying that I created it, but like my generation, River Phoenix, Christian Slater, Ethan Hawke, BoJesse Christopher. I'm like I'm not as famous, but I was in that mix and I was rocking that look. So I feel like I own some of that. and so but let me answer the question, because I know I'm talking a lot of story right now. I would cut my hair in a hot second, and I did that. Like the first opportunity that I got to do something different than Point Break, I was like, let's do it. Let's cut all the hair off. Let's shave the head. Let's go different color. And I was craving that opportunity to do that, just to show people I wasn't just this surfer kid, doing the thing. Because that's all of a sudden you're typecast, right? And I don't think I ever got really cast into that thing. I did some zhuzhing. Yeah, I'm proud of that.
What were you going to say, Josh, before I cut you off?
I cut you off.
No, I cut Josh off.
Nobody cut me off. It's all good.
Sorry, Josh.
Of working with some of these heartthrobs from back then, what was your experience working with Corey Feldman? I know it's his birthday today, right?
Happy birthday, Corey. Happy birthday,
Corey. But Corey's a heartthrob?
He was, dude. He was. Listen, Tiger Beat, Bop. You guys were both in those magazines back then.
Y'all were
both of them.
I say that because Corey is he's the heartthrob. I mean that because you look back and you look back at any of those magazines, man. It's, Corey's part of all of it from the beginning. And I love Corey. Corey's he's such a special guy, man. I know Corey in a way that most people don't. I feel very lucky that I can talk to Corey one-on-one or in a small group of people and actually get him to share his real heart. Not because you don't think he can, but because in a lot of ways he's so famous in his own way or ways that he has to put on an act. He has to play Corey Feldman. And I think, a lot of the greats did, Elvis, right? I'm not comparing him to Elvis, but I'm not comparing him to Elvis too. Like, these are polarizing, iconic figures. You put like a silhouette of Corey Feldman and you spray paint that on the street, you know who that is. That's Corey Feldman. You know that face. You just do, right? Same thing with Elvis. You do that with me, you don't. But you do it with Corey, you do. So like, he's iconic, and in a way he has to wear the mask. Do you know what I mean? And so in a way, it's got to be so hard for someone to always be playing Corey Feldman or Elvis or whatever, right? So I feel really grateful that the relationship that I had have with Corey since the beginning, since 1991 when we did Meatballs 4, has been the most honest and direct and different than most any other friend that I've seen him interact with. And it's a testament because I met him when he was coming out of rehab. And when he did this movie, he was literally being driven from rehab to the movie set. And he needed somebody who was sober to keep him sober while doing the movie. And I was that guy.
That's BoJesse. I'm August 4th. I will be 10 years sober from alcohol. So listen, for you to do that for him, because I couldn't even, when I was at my like rock bottom, I was having a hard time finding anybody to even take a phone call with me, because I had like burned so many bridges. Because when I just wanted to party. I just wanted to meet chicks. I just wanted to, if I made plans with you and something else came up that was more important, you're not going to see me. Like, that's the guy I was, dude. So you're a good dude for doing that for him.
That's a real struggle, man. Like, I was a independent wrestler in my 20s, and I broke my back in 2010, and pain pills were the answer for a while, and got real bad for a while. So what you did for him, that's awesome. Because
dude, that's good for you, BoJesse. That's awesome, man.
It's a struggle. It's really hard when you're trying to go through that and you're around people that are still you know, doing those things, or you know, not keeping you on the straight and narrow. So
Enablers are all over the place. And if a guy is famous or as well known as Corey, and you live in LA and you live in that vibe and that area, I mean, even John Belushi, man, it was like he would try to get sober, but people would just give it to him. He wouldn't even have to buy it. You would
Yeah.
just go somewhere and they would hand you some scripts or whatever, you know. I don't it got to be hard, man. Got to
Yeah.
be really hard.
Yeah, and thank you guys for acknowledging that, and also congratulations in your own right for being, you know, clear-minded enough to be able to speak to it in such a eloquent and vulnerable way that you shared this moment together and created something that we can be proud of in this moment going forward. It's really important. I'm working the program currently, and I love it, man. I love my life as a result of, you know, being sober, and so you know, that's an acknowledgement too. With Corey, we've been friends for, you know, since 1991, so it's 34 years, whatever it's been. And I just spent 4th of July at his house, and I just wished him happy birthday day. I'm going to see him at a show in a week and a half of the birthday show. And I just love that we're still friends, and we tell each other we love each other. You know, love you, man. Really glad that we can share this, and you know, and spend a moment, give him a hug, and he can catch up, and I can catch up, and he's so talented. You know, he's Corey. I marvel at all the things he's done. He's done so many iconic, cool things. He's Corey. I want him to do more. I think everyone wants him to do more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really, really always try to encourage him to continue to really, you know, find the next collaboration with the next premium collaborator that makes sense for him to do all the cool things. I would like him to do the things that he did back then with like whoever's special now combination of things, and then really put his, you know, really put the whatever that he thinks the branding needs to be. And I love him for his choices, and go do it. But also I want him to deconstruct and just be whatever he needs to be in that world with that combination of collaborators at the highest level, because he's that kind of talent, and he can see the next side of himself deep in his, you get where I'm going with that.
Yes,
Yeah. Instead of just taking maybe like the quick payday to go do something and get it done to make some money, and it's okay, nobody sees it, they see it. And I love that. And I get that. A lot of actors fall into that trap, by the way, because it's a little bit of a trap, because you need the money and you got some fame. And so you got to go do a thing, and then you're not really proud of it. So you hope it gets buried and no one sees it. And then you keep taking those things. But I think Corey is kind of, he stopped doing those things and focus on the music. So he doesn't do all that stuff anymore. The things that he doesn't want people to see. He wants to do music, and love it or hate it or whatever people want to say or feel, whatever. Corey's having fun. And then on top of that, I think it opens up the door for him to kind of find collaboration with other people who can put him into cool things that he wants to see, that he wants to be part of. And we want to see Corey come into this stuff. Like Corey should do Stranger Things, man. Corey should be on a show like that. Like Corey should be, stuff like that.
BoJesse, I think and I'm a huge Corey Feldman fan. Stand By Me, License to Drive, The Goonies, all that stuff. Corey Feldman is a legend.
Birds, Lost Boys.
Yes, dude.
I think the 13th. I mean, it keeps going and going and going.
Yes. I think the fan base, it's not about his music. It doesn't matter if he was great or not great. I think the fan base liked him, and he did so amazing, and all of those prior films he did, they want more of that. I think it's like they're upset with him for him choosing to not give them that. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for someone like Corey, because Corey is he grew up in some weirder times when things, some shit happened, like behind the scenes. And I think he's got a lot of, stuff to work through, to let go, to be able to feel good about coming back into a business where he can look at the people that are doing it now and not feel connected to some other stuff that was going on. So I think there's some like catharticism that needs to happen, and I think he's having that. One of the things I really love about Corey, and that I saw on 4th of July, is that I feel like I saw some growth, man. I was like, oh, here's a man of a certain age now who is coming into his own. Like I see him embracing this transition. You know what I mean? Not trying to stay 20.
Yeah, his hair color, he didn't do his hair. It's lighter. I saw that. He's
he's still performing. So like, I don't know if he's bleaching the hair or whatever he's doing, but like, I guess like his energy though was more like, yeah, you know, I'm feeling good. I'm grateful. I had some highs and some lows last year, but I've got what I've got now, and that feels good. And he wasn't trying to like boast, you know, put on a thing. And to me, that's a sign of, you know, accepting the strengths and the weaknesses and moving forward as a man. You know what I mean? Like as a person who's like, okay, I'm a man of a certain age now. I don't have to be, I just am. And that's what we want to see. I want to see vulnerability, man. I want to see him sit in front of the camera and emote. I want to, because there's catharticism in that art form, you know, and we enjoy Corey. So it's always going to be cool, you know, and he'll find that. I'm rooting for him for sure. I love Corey. Corey's
You're
great.
never too old to grow or to evolve, you know, and I'd love to see a renaissance of him, you know, kind of like Macaulay Culkin's done recently.
Yeah.
Like I've seen him in American Horror Story popping up, Righteous Gemstones, and
Totally.
that's been pretty cool. So
That's exactly right. That's exactly
cool, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What now? So you said you knew River? You knew River Phoenix?
So sadly, I didn't really know River. I did know River, but I didn't know him. He was not my friend that way. But River was it for me. Like I was 13, 14, 15 years old and looking at River Phoenix's career, thinking, boy, can I identify to River. And I saw myself in River. For some reason, I had it in my soul that was my actual soul brother. Like that was, I'm meant to do what he's doing. I could identify with him more than any other actor, anybody. And he drew me into the world of acting in that way, energetically. So, I mean, I was already tracking. I wanted to be an actor. I was already tracking all the things that were calling to me to that. But like, he was the one who I felt guided me there. When I got to Hollywood, an interesting thing happened. I worked with Keanu Reeves. And in Keanu Reeves and River were thick as thieves, you know. And I said to Keanu, I said, you know, do I look like River Phoenix? You know, because I thought I did at the time, and I was just, you know, I was a young actor. I'm like, and I remember looking at me, and he goes, no, because he loved River, you know, and River's River, and and I went, okay, and then I started to think, I understand what he means by no, meaning you're you. Be you, and he's him, and he will be him. And so you're two different people. I don't see comparisons that way. And I had to kind of process that while sitting next to my new friend Keanu Reeves, you know.
Yeah.
And then just a little later in life, 5 years or so, I ended up. Well, I did Pump Up the Volume before Point Break with Samantha Mathis, and Samantha Mathis was my friend because of Pump Up the Volume, and Samantha Mathis was dating River Phoenix at the time he died. And so I was hanging out with Samantha Mathis and my friend Tracy Falco when River died. And so I remember when she found out, and I was in that inner circle at that whole point. I was literally like around. I was with everyone who was like scurrying to figure out what to do and where to be and how to support and all the things. So I unfortunately didn't get a chance to really become his friend. But boy, did he mean a lot to me as a young actor, you know. Watched every second of everything that he did, obviously on screen. I went to My Own Private Idaho premiere because my friend Keanu was starring in it with River, and I went with my girlfriend at the time, Drew Barrymore. There's some iconic photographs from that event, and so that was meaningful. Yeah.
River. So River, I live in Oregon. River's family had you know, like I wouldn't say a cabin, but they had a home in Oregon. River had filmed it. My Own Private Idaho, I believe, was filmed in Portland, in Oregon. Stand By Me was filmed in Brownsville, Oregon. We were really familiar with River Phoenix and his family in this area. I would say there was no internet when he passed, but I remember my mom came into the kitchen and she said that River had passed away, and I was like 8 or 9, and I was so upset because I just thought the world of him.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it, you know.
I couldn't process it. I was so young, I didn't understand. You know, what are you talking about? What does that even mean? Sort of deal.
it was really hard to understand what was going on. That was I mean, I'm getting goosebumps because I just remember, like, you know, it really rocked. It rocked a lot of people, you know. Such a big presence on
Yeah,
film.
Corey, your friend Corey, they were tight. They were Stand By Me together, and Corey still brings up River to this day.
Yeah, I've talked to Corey about River a little bit, you know, and it's not a sensitive issue, but it's a little bit of a sensitive issue, you know, because he misses him and they had a
Mhm.
relationship, you know. Um, but out of respect, you know, I like to check in on some of that stuff because it meant a lot to me too, even though I didn't really know him. You know what I mean? Because River, that's the kind of person River was. It came through. You know, you saw his vulnerability and his
Yeah,
strength, and you identified with him. And boy, did I feel like, man, that guy is the living embodiment of what I was feeling at the same time. And so that really pulled me into the thing. And yeah, sad that we
I can
lost.
I can see that. I can see that parallel. And Keanu, listen, Keanu, if you ever watch Getting Sidetracked, I don't agree with you. Young BoJesse, very similar look to River Phoenix, especially My Own Private Idaho, kind of 91-ish, 90 for sure.
In those days, you know, there's two things I want to touch on real quick. One is uh, Keanu's nickname for me is Young BoJesse, even to this day. Because
Really? What? Because of the movie? Because you
because
were
of the
just so young?
movie, and everyone referred to me as Young BoJesse because I was the youngest. You know, I was Gromit. You know, and so literally Young BoJesse is like a term of endearment. So if I see Keanu in person, it's Young BoJesse. You know, or if he writes me, it's Young BoJesse. Or if I write to him, it's Young BoJesse. By, by writing, I mean texting or whatever. You know, or if I leave him a voice memo or something, it's Young BoJesse. You know, um, and then
Phenomenal.
yeah, and then I forget what the other one was going to be, but I think it was to the effect of I think when we were a lot younger, I had a very specific look that I thought looked a lot like River Phoenix
Mhm.
in particular. So, but that was fun for me because I was like, this guy's the best, and you know, I guess I'm doing something right too because you know I kind of feel like I look like him too, and I was so there's something I've got a future in this, whatever that was, and that gave me some confidence. It did, you know, it really did.
For sure.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I read this. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but like there's an alternate universe somewhere where apparently Matthew Broderick and Val Kilmer were first like they wanted them for the role that Keanu played of Utah. Do you know anything about that?
I believe that because I feel like I've heard that before, and also I think Johnny Depp was either going to be Bodie or Utah, or Charlie Sheen was in the mix on that too, either Bodie or Utah. I can't remember, but yeah, I think there was a whole wave of people that had it for a minute, somehow lost it, and then it ended up with Swayze and Keanu.
I
So
can't
whatever.
imagine it another way. That's all.
Yeah, it's a great combination the way it turned out, and it was originally called Riders on the Storm.
Jim Morrison,
Yeah,
The Doors.
that was the
Oh, yeah.
working title. And then not until we finished the movie, you know, they did a whole thing at the very end of the movie where they had people like write down what you think the movie should be called and put it in a hat. And we're gonna like, you know, figure out and whoever, you know, whoever gets it is gonna get. I forget what they were offering. It was you're gonna get a free surfboard or whatever you're gonna get. No, but I don't think they gave it to anybody. But Point Break is what we ended up with. And I remember when it became Point Break, I was like, I don't like that title. Because I'm like Point Break, you know, what's it mean? You know, I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
one of the titles. I mean, it's great. It's iconic now. But you know, I remember thinking, you know, but you know, I was wrong on that one. But I think one of the titles was like Death on a Stick because it was you know hot dog on a stick in the 80s and the 90s was like a cool mall thing and it was like that would have been cool because it's like going to the mall and getting a hot dog on a stick but it's death on a stick but
It's a line in the movie.
surfboard's a stick. Yeah, so I think that was one of those. You know, I don't know, but that was one of them. But I don't even know. I'm on a tangent now. Now I'm just talking.
No, Death on a
The
Stick.
show is
Like,
called Getting Sidetracked, so that's what it's all
yeah,
about.
no, that's perfect. This is on brand. No, the Death on a Stick was where Bo Jesse, I sent you that text of the beach in Oregon where they filmed they filmed the shot with Buddy and Keanu to do the big capture scene, and they let him go out there, and the guy's like, nobody can. We're waiting for him till he comes back in.
Yeah.
And he's
You can't have that. It's like death on a stick. You
yeah,
know, like whatever it was.
that's the line that was in my state. Okay,
Yeah.
I was just there.
That wasn't
Yeah.
Australia. What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bells
Was
Beach,
it Bells
Oregon.
Beach? Yeah, exactly.
Bells
Yeah, that's
Beach,
right. You sent me the
Oregon.
message. Yeah, I guess. Do you guys know the story? Because Keanu's got long hair and Swayze's got short hair in that.
But Bogus Journey, right? That's a pickup, right?
Yeah. So I think yeah, the Point Break thing is a pickup, but he was on Bogus Journey. So he's doing Bill and Ted, and then Swayze was doing City of God or Children or something like that. He's doing it was a Roland Joffe movie, and so their hair was different. And
Oh yeah.
I love that though because it works for the dynamic. Because the whole movie, Swayze's got the long bushy hair, Keanu's got the tight thing, and then it kind of switches, which I love. And so that worked out in a really sweet way for the two of them, and gave them a chance to kind of go away for a minute, come back, and like bring that energy to that moment. What a great scene that is.
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's like it's so interesting. I had so many questions after I saw that for the first time. I'm like, so is Johnny Utah going to prison because he just let a fugitive, go, and then also he just threw his badge away. So obviously everything was fine after Harp arrested him before the ex-presidents robbed their last bank and our boy Gromit, got murdered in the bank. So they just overlooked all that stuff. I mean, Keanu's still on the force.
And
A
there's
lot of
some
questions,
guy.
man. A lot of questions. Yeah, but that's good. I think it's cool because now your thinking brain like wants to know more. You want more Point Break because that, you know what I mean. So it's in a way it's cool to have it unresolved. I mean, it is. Look, it's fine because this is the reality. There wasn't a sequel, and maybe there shouldn't be a sequel, right? There was a reimagined movie, but like would have been cool to kind of do a follow up with Keanu and like do like another movie where we find out the answers to those questions and we see some more Point Break. I mean, if it would have happened like relatively in that window, of the 90s, mid 90s, but c'est la vie.
If they offered you, so let's pretend, dude, Katherine Bigelow comes back. She says, listen, it's time. We're gonna do a pre-equal, and I have a part for you, BoJesse. It's obviously not going to be one of the ex-presidents, but we're going to have you be of a particular age.
Yeah.
We've got a great role for you.
Yeah.
And I want you to come back.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, number one, without a doubt, because it's Katherine Bigelow, but number two, it's Point Break, and that's number one anyway. But
yeah.
Number three, which is number one, is I'm an actor. I want to work. So yeah, but so yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's also like there are some things in development that I'm working on that I'm spearheading that are specific to the IP. What's going on?
I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah, so I've been developing the TV series based on the 35 years later concept with Peter Iliff, who wrote the original film. Peter wrote a season 1 of television. I developed it with him. I took it to Keanu. Keanu gave us some notes. We've been working on it for the last 4 years. We are in a position right now to do the series, and it is a conversation that I'm having at the highest level with some really interesting collaborators, and it looks like you will be seeing more Point Break in the form of cinematic television on your premium streaming platform. I can't make any official announcements right now, and it's early days. In other words, it has not been produced yet, but it's in development, and it's probably likely to happen in the next year or two.
So
and at the highest level.
You're telling me that on Getting Sidetracked, starring BoJesse Christopher, we might be sort of breaking some breaking news here in the Point Break universe.
Well,
maybe
I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying that. But also, I don't have any qualms talking about the fact that we're in development on something that's so beloved to the fan base too, because it's not that it's an official announcement or it's more like a share. It's because I know what the fans want. They want more Point Break, and what they don't want is more imitation.
Mm-hmm.
Point Break. They want more Point Break.
Dude, when they said they were remaking Point Break back in 2013, 2014, it was like, why don't you just go remake Back to the Future too? Why do we have to remake perfect films?
Some movies are lightning in a bottle. You don't.
Yeah. Well, just let me give you a quick heads up. I just realized my computer's not plugged in and it's gonna die. I think we have time, but just heads up, if it goes off, you've lost me. Unless you want to give me 1 minute to plug it in.
Plug it in. No, whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do, BoJesse.
Give me 30 seconds, because anybody watching this will appreciate me plugging in my computer and will give us the benefit of the doubt. So talk amongst yourselves for 30 seconds and I will plug it in. Okay. I'll even talk while off camera. So, I love the idea, if we're going to do more Point Break, that we're going to do it with the people who created Point Break. And so Peter Iliff was the really important part of that puzzle. He was the one to get the zeitgeist correct, and really the only way that anybody should want to do it. And then obviously we want to invite as many of the original, Point Break all-stars into that conversation. So the first guy that I contacted was Keanu Reeves, my friend. And, so I think that that's a conversation that we're continuing to have with Keanu, because Keanu's Keanu Reeves, and it's tricky to figure out how to get Keanu Reeves, to commit to something, only because he's one of the biggest movie stars in the world. So we're working through that, but it's important that we bring in those important aspects that got, the thing right to begin with. Katherine Bigelow certainly is invited into that conversation. A lot of the original cast is invited, and it's something that we're close on being able to potentially move forward on. And I have a couple other exciting things that I could announce, but I'll wait. I mean, in that regard, with regards to Point Break, we're just not quite there yet. But I'm sharing with you, we're almost there, which is good. So that's that.
Exciting.
And my computer's plugged in, which is amazing.
2 for 2.
2 for 2. Oh my God. Yeah.
I got a pitch. Me and Alex play characters that found the FBI badge in the trash, and we're taking turns going around Australia, acting like an FBI agent.
I think we should write that into it, man. We'll have Chat GPT include that into the overall pitch.
Yeah, BoJesse, if you just happen to be talking to Keanu or Katherine, we have a pitch. These 2 guys that you just met and you did an interview with, they want to be featured players in the movie or in the TV show.
Hey man, weirder things have happened. I mean, I think that's a cool way to get yourself in front of the decision makers. I mean, look how I got the role. I just hijacked somebody's audition by chance, and here we are talking about, which is really
that's incredible, dude.
So I'll hijack Alex's part.
Totally,
dude. BoJesse, I got my job at Fox. I didn't go to school for broadcast journalism. I was bartending, and the guy who bought the Fox Sports news station in town was a customer of mine, and I was talking to him about fantasy football, and he must have noticed that I knew what I was talking about or whatever. He said, "Have you ever wanted to do radio?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Sure, yeah." And I got a job. I started doing unpaid stuff for like 2 years, and then I eventually worked into like 3 shows paid.
Wow.
Yeah, totally random. If I hadn't been working at that restaurant, I would have never met the guy. I probably wouldn't be. I would have never met Josh. I probably would have never had this interview with you. It's weird how crap like that happens. It's bizarre.
It's a wave, man, and you just got to ride it. You got to ride the wave, the forward feel. It takes you where you need to be. Yeah, you are, or you are where you need to be, or you're exactly where you. What's the expression? You're at. Fuck, what's it called? Gary Busey would know. Gary.
Get him on. Patch in Gary. Get one of our interns on it right now. Get Gary on the line.
Yeah, I can't remember the expression, but you're exactly where you need to be. Basically, this is where you're meant.
BoJesse, so you worked in the nightclub industry, is that true?
I did, yeah.
Okay, for Bolthouse, is that for?
Brent Bolthouse was sort of like the biggest nightclub promoter in Hollywood and did the coolest parties, and it was at a time when there wasn't a lot of things out there that were competing against what he was doing, and so there were fewer people that were able to get into those parties, and so those parties were full of quality people, not just like aesthetically pleasing people, but like good energy, creative, felt like everyone was on like a mission to do something cool and innovative with their creativity, And so those parties were like iconic in a way because it was a time when, before an oversaturation of nightlife, there was the Brent House experience. And if you were part of that, you were part of a community of creatives that were doing things in the industry and making their mark and their way through that thing. And then they would all, converge in nightlife together and chop it up and talk art and life and all the things at night. And so that kind of taught me, a way to do a thing if I was going to create something too. And then I monetized it. I took it as a business, and produce it in a way that I was able to take that cool core thing, and then like sell it to the masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in a way, I kind of messed it up because I took a cool thing and then I monetized it, and then an explosion of nightlife happened. Not because of what I did, but because it was just a time like
Mm-hmm.
people saw you could come in and you could make a nightclub and you could have 10 in a row. And then, instead of one in Hollywood, you could have, 50 of them, and you could own 10 of them, in that little gaggle. So there was an oversaturation of the market that happened when I came into the business. So I was kind of forced to monetize, but I did. And then I basically felt like I was a total sellout and was just taking people's money.
Yeah.
And all my art was gone. And like, I was like, what am I doing with my life? And then I got back I had like a midlife crisis, and I basically said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to get back into acting, and that's the short story. But basically I stopped producing nightclubs and events and taking people's money. And I got back into acting class and got my agent and manager back, and, started doing movies and TV, whatever I could get on. And I've been on that trajectory. At that same time, I know I'm answering a question by telling you another story, but also at that same time, I needed to figure out how to make a living in between the acting jobs. And I didn't know this at the time, but I was gonna turn my love of acting into a business, because I ended up coaching actors,
Mm-hmm.
falling back in love with acting. And then that took off. People were really lined up to come and see what I was doing and how I was approaching the craft and getting people together to work out the craft. And then all these years later, 14 years later, I've got a really wonderful business that's respected and doing well in Los Angeles. And I coach actors worldwide, and I've got some notables and some emerging and up and coming people. And so I went from the nightclub business into coaching acting,
Mm-hmm.
and while creating television. So
BoJesse Christopher Acting Studio /aholics LA. Find him on Instagram. You can find him through my friends that I follow. His link to his acting studio is right there, so it's all in the credentials. You post stories every day, right? I see posts and stories, stuff you guys are doing, fun you're having.
Yeah, I'm pretty active. I appreciate you sharing the information, how to get a hold of me. That's really important to me, obviously, to keep it all going and flowing and growing. But yeah, man, I post stuff because I'm out there. I like to be out there, and it's cyclical. Like, I'll have moments where I kind of pull back from social media, and I might not share my adventures, but I'm always doing stuff and always out there seeing my friends and meeting new friends. And I feel really blessed in a very spiritual way that I'm able to do so many cool things still. And I feel like all the stuff we've been talking about is just the first 5 or 6 chapters of maybe, 15, 20, 30 more chapters to go in the world of BoJesse and what is possible. And you guys are at a really good moment. So I want to come back and talk to you guys some more, which is so
cool. I was about to say that there's plenty more. We'd love to have you back.
BoJesse, whenever you want to come back on, man. I just had a couple of questions real quick before we wrap up, man.
Yeah.
Since we're all sober, one thing I wanted to just tell you, it's not even a question. I used to bartend for forever, so I was always like the outgoing, funny guy or whatever, and I would use that to make money tip-wise, and I would do really well. But when I got sober, I was still attempting to bartend, and a part of me felt like a complete phony because I was trying to make money off of customers and stuff. I was like trying to take their money in a sense from something that I felt like was killing me. So I felt like a complete phony, and I had to completely take a step back from that industry. And I was just wondering if in your journey, did you ever feel like I have to take a step back from the nightlife just so I can getting back in touch with who I am before I ever started any of that stuff.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, you talking about it reminds me of exactly the way it felt for me, and continues to feel. Like I don't need to be in those spaces anymore, and I certainly don't want to be in those spaces to monetize. You know, sometimes we find ourselves having to do what we have to do. So like, it would be the hardest thing to not drink and then be a bartender. You know what I mean? That would
Yeah.
be so hard. It'd be so hard. I can walk into a bar, I can walk into a nightclub, no problem. And I don't need to, like, I'm not like, oh, alcohol, there it is. But I'm also like, I'm not, you know, I'm done. I'm here for an hour. I'm ready to go somewhere else. Not because I don't want to be around alcohol. I'm just energetically, I don't need to be in that space and listen to other people having a good time because the alcohol's there to give them the good time. Like, I can go and be around people. I just can't be there more than I feel I want to be there. I get maxed out quick when I'm around people drinking, not because I'm judging them, but I'm just sort of like, okay, I can hang out, but as soon as I feel like now we're just talking about the same thing over and over and over because the alcohol is kind of keeping us there, then I need to go because I can see now that that's just the alcohol. And so I just go. But yeah, man, I had that thing. I was like, you know, I'm only able to deal with this event or being in this space if I can drink. The drinking helps me get through it. And so I'm like, that's not good. And also, I don't like the way I'm making the money. The way I'm making the money is like taking the money, and it's all based on me being drunk enough to do the thing that I don't want to do to get the money that I want. So it was all like a negative on a negative on a negative. And so I had to remove those things in order to feel better about myself and find myself again. And so one of the cool parallels that I'm seeing is like, I found my return to self, but part of myself was really desiring acting. That's who I am. That's why I moved here. And I wanted to come back to the art form. And I found a way to harness that and coach that. And then it turned into a monetization thing. But it was really, the monetization was an exchange for the creative service I was providing and the catharticism that I was allowing other actors to come in and feel for themselves. And so it was like a healthy exchange. So what you're probably experiencing now is like, whatever you're doing to make money, you're probably doing it from your creative heart. And your heart is, this is, I'm in the space that I need to be, you know. And I love that. I love that for us.
Yeah.
That is it, man. Everything else is excess. And we don't need the excess. We don't need it. Sometimes we crave it. We want it. We want a little taste of it. It's a treat. But I like living in what we feel we want, not what we feel we need.
I agree with you. I think that, like, I get asked all the time, and Josh, I don't know if you get this, but when people see that we have, you know, the YouTube channels and stuff, and they see the views and everything, they're like, oh, you must have like the greatest, you know, outside life, or what, you must always be doing something. And it's like, not really. We're kind of like always writing, creating. I like to keep my life as boring as possible. Like, and I feel like I give that, like, I get up, I exercise, I either run or lift, I write, we record, I'm doing things, and we eat dinner, and I go to bed. Like, I like to keep it as like, because when I was like kind of running hard, my life was all over the place. I wasn't happy. I would be happy for the 2 or 3 hours that I was drinking right before I got super blacked out, and if I was talking to a girl, like, everything was pretty good right there. And then when that was gone and I was too drunk, dude, my life was a mess, dude. It was a mess. It was a mess.
It's rough. It's rough, man. I mean, it's also it's so nuanced. It's also nuanced. You know, it's hard not to judge, but also I really do try not to judge drinking or drinkers. Like, you know, I just can't do it to myself anymore. That's my perspective. I just can't do it to myself anymore. Nothing good has ever happened. And I've been saying that for a long time to myself. Nothing good ever happens when I drink. Anything bad that's ever happened, any behavior or circumstance or anything that's changed in my life that's been negative, is all a result of drinking. And so I just can't do it anymore. That's just my perspective. I cannot drink anymore. And if I don't have to drink, then I get all this other beautiful stuff. If I just say no to drinking, I get all this other beautiful stuff.
I love everything about that, and I relate to you 100% because there was never a time in my life where I ever woke up the next day from going to bed early and being sober that I was like, oh my God, what the hell did I do last night? What text message am I going to get? Who did I write? What did I say to X, Y, and Z? Where are these ATM receipts from? Did we went to the strip club? I don't remember doing that. Like what the hell? Like I don't know.
Right off the bat, it's just too expensive to drink anyway. Like just how much
100%.
money do we save not drinking? I mean, it's that's
$100 a day at least, dude. $100 a day at least.
Easily.
At least.
Easily, and all the damage done and all the money it takes to to repair all the damage that you've done. Who knows? You know what I mean? All of it. Anyway, you guys are great. I really appreciate both of you. This is so fun. Is there any final thoughts that you guys want to touch on? We can always circle back too. I would love that.
You know what? I'm good. BoJesse, this was amazing. I had a great time, man.
We'd love to have you back. And I just wanted to say real quick, if anybody watching is, fighting an addiction, getting clean, trying to, have a sober life, whether it's 2 days, 2 weeks, 10 years, 15 years, you got to take it one day at a time. There is support groups and support lines out there, and I'll put some of that in the description and pin comment. And you can reach out to me and Alex as well, at /tracks2020@gmail.com. We'd love to talk to you if it would help. So
I love that. That's so cool. I mean, it takes time, but it also takes a little bit of you gotta put yourself first. Sometimes you got to get yourself realigned, and just say, I know I deserve better. I can do better. And it starts with me, and it's hard. It's 1 second at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, so like just find a way to connect and know that the love is there within yourself and around you. I love this. I love that this turned into a little bit of a heart share, man, because it's a tricky, thorny world that we live in, but it's also just filled with beauty, as thorny as it is right now. So know that the love is shared across the board here, and to anybody watching. And I'm sending positive energy and love, and I know that the two of you are too. And I appreciate being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh,
that's the end /Alex. Thank you.
And there's something I always say at the end of, speaking of Keanu Reeves, something I say at the end of everything we do: be excellent to each other, folks, and stay sane inside insanity.
I love that.
Mahalo, dogs.
Right, you guys. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, BoJesse. We appreciate it, man.
Lights, camera, groove in the mix. Alex and Josh got the movie flick fix, from horror screams to sci-fi dreams. They're diving in deep, busting at the seams. Oh, get inside track. Oh, we taking that ride, talking about the movies where the legends collide. Action, drama, they break it all down with a laugh, a vibe, the best show in town. Oh yeah, actors, bring the heat. Spilling all the tea, now ain't that sweet. From big explosions to monsters at night, they're breaking it down under studio lights. Get inside track, oh, we taking that ride, talking about the movies where the legends collide. Action, drama, they break it all down with a laugh, a vibe, the best show in town. Directors, actors, bring the heat. Spilling all the tea, now ain't that sweet. From big explosions to monsters at night, they're breaking it down under studio lights. Oh yeah! Alex got the questions, Josh got the flair. Dancing through the genres, they take you there. Grab some popcorn, you don't wanna miss. It's a wild, funky journey, oh, it's bliss. Oh, get inside track, oh, we taking that ride, talking about the movies where the legends collide. Action, drama, they break it all down with a laugh, a vibe, the best show in town. Oh, getting sidetracked, oh, we taking that ride, talking about the movies where the legends collide. Action, drama, they break it all down with a laugh, a vibe, the best show in town.